In the mighty jungle, where Yoshi sleeps tonight. Wait a minute, where's Jungle Yoshi? Did I somehow manage to glitch up the actual respawning points for Jungle Yoshi? I want to select him, damn it, for this particular episode, but I'm guessing because I have no idea why I just act out like that. But either way though, we'll leave it up as it is, but even then though, there's gonna be another selection of Yoshis that we can able to select eventually though, so... Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I am Duffy Duck here once again, and I'm back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Seriously, this is gonna be the second week in a row that I'm actually gonna be taking over for the forms of specifically the weekdays, but not so much in the weekends because... Well, I pretty much mentioned about this before since Super Mario Galaxy 2 Let's Play, that, I'm pretty sure I'll let Sonic were able to actually get on with Kingdom Hearts Final Mix for this weekend, so I just want to point things out. So, yeah, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Yoshi's Woolly World, or in this case, on the 3DS, for the Wii U anyway, though, for Yoshi's Woolly World for the Wii U, and on the 3DS, usually calls it Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World, so that we can able to actually know what the actual names of that specific matter. So, anyways though, so last time we did manage to able to be fully concluded with World 3, as well as we did manage to get things started with World 4, and I suppose today for this episode is the fact that we might actually get started with the continuation in World 4 by going through World 4-2 Lakitu Peekaboo. And as far as I'm aware, this entire level is going to be based on around with Lakitus all over the place. Well, not so much in the beginning portion of this stage, but until later on though, that we might actually come across into several of those Lakitus. So either way though, relatively speaking, that's as far as I can usually try to explain about this level though. Well, from the start anyway though, is the fact that we need to come across into this oldest growing segment right here. So, yeah, to be expected at this point, and make sure we don't get far behind when it comes to screen crunch or anything like that. But either way, there's not much else to say. So either way though, today's day is the forms of the 24th of September in 2019. So, quite a few things is worth mentioning though, is the fact that I've already mentioned about this before, since in Super Mario Galaxy 2 Let's Play so far, that the state of play, specifically the PlayStation Nintendo Direct type, is going to be able to actually launching today, specifically in 9 PM if I remember correctly, in the UK country. But even then, I can't wait to see how this will turn out to be, especially that I don't know if PlayStation 5 will get its unusual announcement or something like that, but either way though, it's a little bit too early to predict right at this point in time. But either way though, despite the fact that the PlayStation 4 has been almost out for about almost 6 years now, which either way though still is pretty cool to say the least though, especially because of how the fact that, well, usually the PS4 did manage to sell quite well as far as I'm aware. But either way though, not as high as the forms of the PlayStation 2 standards, but they said they did manage to able to do that so well as far as so far for this specific year. Especially that, you know, now every now and then though, that Kingdom Hearts 3 did manage to sell so well, especially like, specifically in both platforms, specifically the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One potentially, because, you know, that game has been sold for like, you know, pretty dang well. Especially just like the actual HD compilations here and there as well. I don't know which one is the worst selling games of this entire series. I think probably, speaking of which, it will be by the forms of specifically Dream Drop Distance on the 3DS, which I think the price is getting super ridiculous in the UK version, because I don't know about the American version specifically, because I've already looked upon that much American stuff since the forms of, well, to be more specifically, Mario Super Sluggers, potentially. But either way, though, that's as far as I can go for that point. So, yeah, can't wait to see how the actual state of play will able to turn out. In forms of, well, in 9 AM specifically. So yeah, looks like I don't miss any of these items though, which is good. So, another thing is worth mentioning though is the fact that once again, our microphone is getting so stupidly glitched up once again. Hopefully though, until next year anyway though, we can able to actually change something a little bit more different for a change, which, as soon as we're done with this microphone at some point at the very end, or specifically, the final day of 2019, I will able to actually put that in a bin somewhere, because I'm getting pretty tired of this specific microphone glitches up ever since the new forms of the majority of 2019 so far, which I know sounds a little bit more relative, because I'm pretty sure it's probably because that the actual microphone cord has been tangled up, or especially noticeable how the fact that I think the actual connections is going a little bit too loose, so it might be some potentials as far as I'm aware. But anyways, let's go ahead and deal with this section right there that we can't afford to able to get crushed, because if we somehow get crushed, well, we have to restart where the checkpoint is. So, and also collectibles that we need to keep an eye out, because, well, if we don't keep in track of them, well, you're probably missing out on them. So either way though, unless if you accidentally die and stuff. Oh wow, I'm actually able to get that smiley flower. Oh, I'm gonna die! Ah, drat. I didn't see that little, platform starts to able to come down, but either way though, it turns out it did. But at least we're not far into it though, because especially noticeable how the fact that unlike in most other games, specifically for Pac-Man World 2 or even the majority of the Pac-Man World games, sometimes whenever I manage to activate the checkpoint and then during the middle portion of the level, for the life of me, I can never seem to able to go far ahead for the last such, which either way, speaking of Pac-Man World actually, is the fact that recently during the other day, I don't suppose I've ever mentioned to you guys about this, but I think I managed to recently complete it, Pac-Man World 1 on my PlayStation physical copy version, because, well, specifically on my PS1, on the actual PS1 Slim model, because, well, I managed to able to gather every single collectibles. Specifically, I've managed to complete all the mazes and all the other Pac-Man's letters on my own time, and everything's all comes together though, until whenever I just managed to able to beat the final boss in that game, which I'm not gonna point things out until when it gets too close to Halloween, and during at some point at the end of October, as I said before, and during my Let's Play of Pac-Man World, so it might actually take us some time to able to actually get back into, especially that I'm most likely gonna have to focusing on, well, obviously the next Let's Play, which is currently at the moment, Super Mario Galaxy 2, as I mentioned this before. But even that, I can able to focus on that first, and then jump onto Pac-Man World before I finish that, and then once I finish that, then I can able to hopefully finish up with Yoshi's Woolly World before we get into Yoshi's Crafted World at some point next year, as I said this before, like, countless amount of times, you know? And, another thing I want to point things out right away is that, yes, tomorrow, after this video releases, the Mario Kart Tour iOS game is going to be coming out tomorrow, which I'm really looking forward to that though, because, well, despite the fact there are some limitations due to the forms of the mobile phone devices, sadly to say, there is no multiplayer, sadly, which either way though, that might be seems upsetting for some people. I think this is pretty obvious, because this is probably due to the limitations of the mobile devices, which unlike, you know, several other generation of consoles, specifically, you know, Super Nintendo, that obviously you got two controller connection slots, and on the Nintendo 64, GameCube, and especially noticeable with Nintendo Wii most likely as well, and also same applies for assuming if you're able to actually access to Wii remotes or the Wii U gamepad for one player for Mario Kart 8, and especially noticeable with you know, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, if you manage to prefer either the Joy-Con controllers or just able to actually go with the GameCube controller as the actual adapter for basically support in every single games at this rate. But as far as everything else though, specifically the Game Boy Advance, which does requires the actual Game Boy Advance cable link to able to play multiplayer from, as well as the forms of the DS and 7, which does require some, you know, the actual wireless connections between multiple DS systems or the 3DS family of systems. So something's worth mentioning though, because at this point in time is the fact that Mario Kart Tour is not likely gonna get ourselves a multiplayer treatment, which is very disappointing for some people, myself included, because that would be a hell of a lot more fun, but I think it's most notably because of how the fact that it does manage to able to get, acquire some of these, touchscreen controls, as opposed to likely. At first I thought that when the actual Mario Kart Tour was first announced, I was expecting if they're going to be bringing us into, let's just say, a tilting motion controls, like tilting the actual phone type of controls and stuff like that, but no, instead it's just basically just touchscreen controls, which might actually be the first time ever since, well, to be more specifically, for, but I don't think it's necessarily true for, well, Mario Kart DS, Super Circuit, as well as 7, 8, and especially 8 Deluxe, because in those games, you can essentially use the controller, and then that's all you have to do. But I think this might actually generally be the first time ever in a Mario Kart game that you do need to acquire the touchscreen all the time. Well, aside from, from Mario Kart DS that allows you to able to select menus, check on maps, or anything like that, and also same applies for Mario Kart 7 as well, and also Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U version, and I really don't know about the forms of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, because other than the fact that I rarely use the touchscreen apart from playing through Super Mario Maker 2, like just to create my very own stages alike, but either way though, that's besides the point for that point. So anywho though, next level, as you can see right here, we're going through Rolling Down the River in World 4-3. Seems to be more accurately though, we're pretty much almost at the halfway point on World 4 so far, which we're probably not going to conclude everything in this world so far for this video, but definitely in the next video at some point in this first day. It's one of pointing out right away when it comes to uploading schedules and all that stuff, so either way though, we'll just get straight to this level. So either way though, I believe, much like the forms of how it does in any single Yoshi games out there, that we actually gonna come across into ourselves the most deadliest enemies of them all is this little particular ugly fish, which every time you're able to let him eat you for his giant mouthful, well, you'll basically die instantly if you get eaten by him. You know, very similar to Cheap Charms from the likes of the 2D Mario games, of course. Specifically, the new Super Mario Bros. Games most likely, because as a result, if you get eaten by them, or especially noticeable, there is one in Super Mario Bros. 3 as well, so relatively speaking, there's not much else to really say about this for the most part though, so we need to get ourselves a little bit of a gift around here, but either way, I'm not exactly sure how this will go, but nonetheless though, we can able to actually feed some more of those, yon balls so that we can able to aim it from here, and then make sure it doesn't go on the water, because if it does go on the water, well, basically it'll able to actually sink through it. So yeah, we don't want to let that happen, because otherwise, if you really want to go for 100% completion, well, best advice for you, just try and be very careful and as such. So, and yeah, that's as far as I can really say about these actual updates for this point, guys, apart from the fact that, well, we did manage to able to actually realize about something that we've already mentioned about this before, that why in a world that Sonic Pocket Adventure package does not come at all. Well, I really don't know, because either way though, it's so hard to tell at this point. But either way though, it could be a, I don't know, a trouble delivery or something like that. Mainly Postman Pat might actually get a little bit of a delay for traffic. But either way, I was making this a little bit of a reference here. But anywho. So anyways, as you can see, that we're actually going to be transforming to ourselves the Mermaid Yoshi, which I don't know if I actually mentioned about this or something like that, because again, it's been such a long while since actually coming back into this game, ever since during the forms of like a couple of weeks ago, because, you know, mainly focusing on the other current Let's Plays, which is specifically for, you know, I mentioned this before, Super Mario Galaxy 2, Pac-Man World, and especially noticeable with, Super Mario Odyssey, which, sure enough, Super Mario Odyssey Let's Play will be finished until at the very end of the year, which I'm hoping that will be the case. And, as well as Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, so even then, though, that, it could be a lot of, busy work of sorts, especially because of how the fact that once we're able to focus on these other, set of Let's Plays, then, you know, you probably get the idea for that solution here, so. And also, this particular part looks familiar to me, because it kind of reminds me of that one particular section on, Paper Mario Sticker Star, that where you have to go onto this little, raft, because you see why in just a moment, until whenever we continue proceeding to this level, so. But you know, you probably get the idea about this point today, folks, and there's not much else I can say, I'm afraid, because, well, we've already mentioned about quite a lot of things. Well, apart from the fact that as soon as I try to get back into Super Mario Galaxy 2 tomorrow, specifically focusing on World 5 Green Stars at this point right now, I should probably mention about the forms of tons of announcements, specifically for State of Play, PlayStation, Nintendo Direct type, which I keep on calling it that because it kind of feels a little bit too similar for that regard. But except the fact that it doesn't feel nearly as exciting as the forms of Nintendo Direct, per se, but I'm just really pointing things out right away. But anywho though, yeah, aside from everything else though, recently I managed to able to play myself The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening remake recently, and so far from my progression on that game, I managed to able to gather myself 2 instruments recently, which, you know, just trying to able to awaken the actual windfish to begin with, which either way though, that probably explains about the plot, about the forms of Link's Awakening, if it doesn't matter which version you'll be getting, either the original Game Boy, in 1993, or you can able to actually get it on the Game Boy Color, or you can able to actually get it now on the Switch version, which is specifically, in my opinion, this is more of a definitive version of that game now, because, well, they managed to fix a lot of inventory items and all that such, and once again, I'm always off by that one last... Oh, actually, I just managed to lost by one of those Woody, Wonder Woolies as well, which either way, though, I'm not exactly sure where they are. But even then, we'll find those at some point. But even then, from now on, though, we got another bonus game to accomplish with. But either way, though, we'll leave things up to that for this point. So either way, though, things can get a little bit more relative, per se. So either way, though, yeah, because we're actually off by 2 items left, which is the Woolly Wall, and once again, those Miiverse stamps that I'm always missing one of them, because either way though, that just gets pretty ridiculous, I should say. But anyways, let's go and grab the whole bunch of fruit, in case if we're able to grind for some more of those beads while we can. And everything else will come together, so anywho though. Something's worth mentioning though, is the fact that there's one particular DS game that we haven't talked about that much. Well, apart from back in 2012, where I, surely remembered about listening to Brown Teddy managed to able to do his Let's Play of Mario Party 8, which I think that particular Let's Play also needs to be redoing at some point in the future. But anyway though, before I mention about that specific stuff, as you can see, we can now able to actually access this next level right here. And I'll meet you guys back onto the forms of the final 2 items I can able to find, specifically for this level. So, yeah, I might as well able to use that, just for the sake of things. So I'll meet you guys back. Alright, you know that particular platform on the left? Well, there it is right here. There's the Miiverse stamp badge right here. And as far as the forms of the last wool piece, rather than just able to actually get into the goal straight away, instead, go to the left, and then, as you can see, there's a little platform over there. And then once you find that, well, hidden cloud appears, and then, boom, there you go. There's the final woolly piece right here. So, there we go. So I guess there's no point for able to actually jump cut for this point right there, because otherwise... I just want to get these segments over with. So either way though, well, it might actually take a little bit longer to able to get through all these done and over with, but I'm just trying to point things out. So anyways, we actually gathered all the, well, all the woolly parts, as well as the forms of the Miiverse stamps, although I can't be bothered able to go through, likely, collecting all this stuff again, because, well, it might be a little bit time consuming, unless if you're trying to go after that particular... flower sketch image, which probably not gonna do that for the sake of this Let's Play. I just want to be honest here. So anyways though, let's see what which Yoshi we've actually unlocked. We actually unlocked Apple Yoshi. Or in this case, I almost get confused by the forms of the similar name from the beginning anyway though, as in Applejack. But except rather than just the forms of the actual pony, instead it was just the forms of the Yoshi himself. So yeah, it turns out, since we actually managed to come across into the orange Yoshi, as we already selected him from the beginning of this video, I just realized, but now we have the second fruit type of Yoshi that we can able to select from. So, anyways, let's move on to not wing the Koopa's Aqua Fort, which either way, onto the forms of level 4-4. So either way though, the actual main gimmick of this level is that, well, obviously we're gonna be swimming a lot in this level because, well, you see why whenever we're able to actually jump right in. But first of all, you know, just like the forms of certain 2D Mario games, you will never forget about that particular collectible right here, because you always have to go into the different pipe as opposed to the normal pipe, because otherwise, if you found something a little bit more hidden, or in this case cheating method by going through that see hidden items and stuff like that, well, basically this might be good for you. So either way though, that's as far as I can gather for that point. So I will say this is probably the longest level in this world so far. This is pretty obvious because of how the fact that the main gimmick of this stage, as you can see, that we have to keep on activating the actual water level between the upper level or the down level, because every time you're able to switch those specific water levels, then, well, you're able to actually continue progression for the actual level. So that's probably as far from the case. Anyways, I think there might be something over there though, but we'll just able to actually double check what's beyond over here. And turns out there's a smiley flower right here. So this will be okay. Oh no, I realized about something. We're off by... For goodness sake, what is going on with me today? I keep on thinking of something else, but instead I always forget about that specific Mythos badge right there. Oh, frick me. I guess there's no way I could able to actually just to do it. Should I try with the monkey or the actual chimpanzee? Yeah, it doesn't seem it's gonna work that way, so I guess I have to able to actually replay the level again, just for the sake of the forms of collecting that freaking one last Mythos badge again, which this is getting ridiculous at this point, which at this point in time until World 5 and onwards, you'll get a lot of times where I always ended up like missing a lot of those items, if you couldn't tell. But anyways, well, it's not so bad on smiley faces as a result, or the smiley flowers, I have to admit, but it's just that it just gets pretty obnoxious if you keep on missing some parts. Thankfully though, until the next level anyway though, after this level's been finished, we might actually come across into a very shorter level, I should say. So either way though, oh yeah, speaking of the forms of whenever I managed to play myself, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening remake on the Switch, I soonly to discover about the fact that yes, the GameCube controller adapter does manage to support with, which is pretty good, because either way though, well, unless the trigger buttons might be a little bit more optional for some other players out there, because unlike any forms of how it does it in, well, let's just say, Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, as well as, you know, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, that in those those two Zelda games, that it does manage to require you to able to actually use the trigger buttons, specifically if you either use the Pro Controller, or specifically, you know, the actual Joy-Cons themselves, until you're able to actually get all the button sequences going. But that's not the case by the forms of Link's Awakening remake. Well, there are some alterations you can able to perform, like specifically the shield button, which is now usually a thing, which I'm very glad for anyway though. And nonetheless, I can able to actually press the Z button or the R button, whatever I prefer, but either way though, I'm very glad about that, because either way though, that's without any some sort of like frustrating moments. Well, the only time it makes it a little bit confusing for me though is the fact that sometimes the X and Y buttons may actually feel slightly out of place, but even then, at least I managed to deal with it just fine enough as it is. And aside from missing features, which is specifically no amiibo support on the GameCube controller, which you already know about that at this point, especially with the no capture button, although there is also an access to the forms of the sub-menu as far as you're already aware, which is thankfully a lot easier to be able to access to, specifically on the GameCube controller support. Whilst the forms of Breath of the Wild though, as I said before, they in order to actually just get from one menu to another, well, specifically, you know, just trying to able to have food storage and stuff like that, to able to increase your stamina meter, or especially noticeable for your health, well, you have to be sure you need to use a different button instead of the usual, buttons as far as I'm most likely concerned with. So either way though, well, don't get me wrong, I don't mind that particular idea, but it's just that, well, the annoying thing about Breath of the Wild for me though, and I know that some fans out there might get a little bit backlash, so I will admit that right away, is that I really hate the actual weapon decoration because, well, it just feels like the weapons can able to break so easily, which even then though, whenever when my weapons manage to break a little bit, although don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the game, don't get me wrong, it's just that the weapon decoration, it makes me feel a little bit bothersome, especially when I was able to actually continue progression for my story and stuff like that. But it feels like I'm not even like progressing at that far, because I'm pretty short here because of how the fact that, well, maybe it's just an entirely different experience of Zelda for me though, because I'm pretty much used to with any other Zelda games by this point. Specifically, well, as for this point right now, I'm busy playing through Ocarina of Time for the N64 still, especially noticeable with, you know, the most recent Zelda game, which is of course Link's Awakening Remake, because I've already, completed the Game Boy Color version on my 3DS specifically, and then as a result of this kinds of stuff, I have no major issues for this point, except I died quite a few times in the original game though, because, well, this is probably due to the actual item inventory system, because it also same applies for the forms of the limited buttons system. And also, about the fact that there is no shield button on the forms of the original game though, which you can't able to hold up with, because you need to keep on switching between those stupid inventory item system, which can be a little bit outright tedious, because either way though, there's going to be a little bit of a tedious slog to go through, and also because whenever you're trying to go towards the actual 13th rock, I got annoyed on the forms of the Game Boy Color version, or the Game Boy version I should say. But thankfully that's not the case this time around though for the Switch version, because I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable with it, because apart from the fact that you still need to switch between those different weapons by the forms of specifically for the inventory system, but not nearly as heavy or tedious as the forms of how it does in the original version of the forms of Link's Awakening for the Game Boy / Game Boy Color. But I will say though, I'm gonna say that again, that the Switch version is without doubt the definitive version of the game right now, especially when, yes, as far as I'm aware, because either way though, that much like the DX version of Link's Awakening for the Game Boy Color, you were able to actually once again include the color dungeon, much like the forms of how it does in the Game Boy Color version, as I said before, which is great, because either way though, that way I can able to actually get myself a little bit of some strategy work, especially when how the fact that if you really want to get yourselves like much more greater on defense, or especially noticeable with good for attacking enemies and stuff, well, I don't know if I actually demonstrate this on my own time by going through the Game Boy Color, I should say, but either way though, I'm pretty sure there's a possible way that you can able to actually switch between the actual, Tanic, if depends on what replays you're going to be doing for the likes of the Color Dungeon, which either way though, I think that could be relative, because either way though, it's entirely up to me, or it's hard to explain about this kinds of stuff, and I really do apologize for the actual lack of commentary for this point, guys, because, wow, apart from my microphone issues, which is still happening to this day, and especially noticeable how the fact that there's not much else I can really just try to talk about, because, well, apart from the fact that it's been about, I would say almost 3 weeks since the forms of the actual Nintendo Direct on the 4th of September, well, despite the fact that I was a little bit slightly disappointed because of how the fact that there's not much new from Mario, apart from the fact that we've already know some other games is about to due out on the Nintendo Switch, which is specifically, you know, Link's Awakening Remake, which I'm pretty much enjoying it, even to this day, as well as the forms of Luigi's Mansion 3, which I'm really looking forward to, especially they add in the new extra modes and stuff, and, well, specifically for the multiplayer aspect, and, by the way, something's worth mentioning about Luigi's Mansion 3, by the way, is the fact that I don't suppose I've ever mentioned about this during the forms of, well, I don't suppose I've ever mentioned about this during my Pac-Man World playthrough so far, And apparently though, alongside with the forms of Fire Emblem 3 houses, is that Luigi's Mansion 3 and Fire Emblem 3 houses are eventually get themselves DLC treatment. Which is pretty cool, because either way though, that, well, we'll have to wait and see what happens and during at some point in 2020, so... You're getting tired now, aren't you? Eek! How about take a quick shower and cool off? Oh, you think you get away with that specific stuff again, Chemic? But anyways, we actually got ourselves the forms of Notwing returning at this point right there. And I think he's going to do something completely different this time around though, although apart from the fact that he's using the exact same strategy as before. But this time around though, he actually breaks the actual bridge apart. So either way though, the only best way to able to actually damage this particular Notwing is that all you need to do is basically you need to let him ground pound right at the actual spikes below, because that way you're able to stun him. Now as a result, you can able to actually damage on his weak spots, just like the forms of how it does it on, you know, the previous encounter with him since World 2. So even then though, it's been about 2 worlds since we actually just managed to able to solve Notwing ever since then, so... But yeah, you get the idea for that point, and I highly recommend you don't ground pound right underwater, because nonetheless, if you somehow ground pound in the underwater, well, basically you're gonna get yourselves hit. So yeah, you just have to stay sharp on that part. So I'm hoping until whenever I get back into Mario Galaxy 2, where I can able to fix the actual microphone still. But sometimes though, I always jinxed it a little bit. Well, I didn't jinx it or anything like that, but anyway. Here's the third and final section, as you can see right there. You know these little, feathered wings, as you can see on the top? Best be sure you need to slightly aim from the actual spikes below, because as a result, it'll deals the actual stunning of him, and there we go. That takes care of Notwing for the second encounter. Well, to be more specifically, the second match against with Notwing himself. Again, relatively easy, but the only time it makes it a little bit tricky is the fact that every now and then, though, is the fact that he now managed to spawn in those waves that are trying to attack you. So either way, though, you need to dodge those as much as you could, and then if you manage to able to deal with all that such, then you should probably deal with it no problem. So, there we go, that takes care of that, and now let's go ahead and we actually got ourselves a new power badge, as you can see right here, so that's pretty cool. And also we got ourselves the new Yoshi type, which this time we have Aqua Yoshi. So I think I should probably equip him at some point in the next level. And of course, like last time, or... Oh, this level's actually pretty fun though. And it's also a very short level as well. Which then again, I'll meet you guys back on the forms of getting that final Me First stamp. And I'll meet you guys onto the forms of the actual world map. And I'm probably not going to use any of those power badges this time. Because of that though, I know exactly where that is. It's just at the very beginning of this level. And then as a result of this kinds of stuff though, hit on to the right and then... Boom, there we go. There we actually got ourselves every single of those Miiverse stamps right now. So either way though, takes some time to able to actually get for this place. But then again, easily one of the longest fortress levels of the whole entire game. Until at the very end of the game though. Alright, another jump cut for this point, because obviously I managed to gather every single collectibles now, so let's move on to the next level, which is World 4-5 Sunset at Curtain Falls. This level is actually a pretty fun one, because, well, although first of all, let me just double check on the actual power badge supplies. I think I'm gonna equip that, but I'm not exactly gonna be confident for able to actually equip that power badge to begin with, because, well, unlike in any other levels of this game, I don't suppose there aren't any of those woolly balls to be found around here. So either way though, because the entire gimmick of this level, as you can see, we're gonna be hopping through those little curtains, which I will say, out of all the levels of this game so far, this is easily one of the coolest and prettiest one in the entire game, because not only you can able to see the actual sunset in the background, but also it's actually pretty fun to play through. And also, unlike in any other levels of this game, well, to be more specifically, the normal stages, not counting the forms of the special stages, this stage is actually relatively short. I mean, really short. At least if you manage to able to try to go after any sort of collectibles, you will be okay. But there are going to be enemies that you need to dodge sometimes, which either way though, that might be seems a little bit true. And by the way, you know these little red beads that we've already come across into? I'm presuming the majority of those red beads might be for the Mifa stamps, which I think that makes it a little bit more simple and easy just to able to actually just to recognize them, so... And I don't suppose they aren't any checkpoints until later on anyway though, but I'm sure enough it will be one of them somewhere around here, so even then let's get this next badge right from here, and sure enough there's a checkpoint just beyond us, so... And also really kick into the music, by the way, because the music is really good. Especially compared to the forms of, the most atrocious soundtrack on the forms of the Yoshi game, which is specifically Yoshi's New Island. Because, oh my god, what have they done to the actual music compartment with, Yoshi's New Island? Because, well, it's usually because of the kazoos or anything like that, because, well... Sometimes it doesn't really fit well with the forms of Yoshi's music like that. Especially, whatever did manage to happen to the forms of the opening cinematic music. I mean, that just sounds completely wrong. And especially with the timing of the actual instrument choice is actually really off. But at least in Yoshi's Woolly World though, it's actually pretty good. It's really damn good. But it wasn't until when we get to Yoshi's Crafted World on the other hand though, well, it could be a pretty different story. But even then, that again, we'll point things out until that time, until, you know, at some point next year. So, anyways, here's the final part. We need to adjust the angle so that we can able to get not only just for those hearts, but also... What? Son of a biscuit! I didn't notice I need to jump for that specific ending portion right there. Oh, jeez, that was pretty bad luck for my part, but, nonetheless, though, the level is not that long, so at least even then, though, assuming if you keep on making several mistakes in between each segment, but either way, though, it's not too bad, I don't think. I'm just trying to say about the fact that I need to, did not even notice about the fact that I need to jump at the right time, assuming that I need to able to grab myself, well, basically for everything for the most part, so... Anywho though, so we'll try this one again, and hopefully though we'll able to actually succeed at the very end of this stage, which either way though, that could be somewhat a little bit more enthusiastic about this. So anywho, but then again though, not much else to talk about this at this point guys. It's just that, well, I'm actually pretty excited for tomorrow for the Mario Kart Tour game that finally comes out on the iOS devices and all that stuff, and I'm really looking forward to able to try out the new courses they actually going to be brings us to, based off from the actual real world. Like, you know, based off from different countries and all that stuff. So, and I think, you know, with that particular, woolly, yarn that we've actually collected, we need to time it well enough, so that if we do manage to grab that, if you manage to get the best jumping as far as you could, then you would able to actually just manage to accomplish that, so... And there we go, that takes care of the forms of Sunset at Curtain, you know, Curtain... It's hard to explain what the actual, the level itself is called now, because, oh yeah, the Curtain Falls, that's what the actual level's called. But there we go, I think we are pretty much at the halfway point in World 4, and speaking of such, I think we're probably gonna end things off at this point right here, for the sake of this video, so... Hopefully though, things can get a little bit more simple and easy though, especially noticeable how the fact that, well, sometimes, if you really want to get every collectible, sometimes it can be a little bit obnoxious sometimes. But anyways though, we'll get endings off here at this point guys, so join me next time on Let's Play Yoshi's Woolly World. It's the fact that we might actually go ahead and conclude World 4 by going through the next level is 4-6, which is appears to be a spooky themed level. So yeah, it's been a while since we actually come across into a spooky theme level in the Yoshi game at least. So see you guys then. Later fellas.